Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to Story Forward. Our guest today is Mirta Kupfermink, who is a labyrinthian, multidisciplinary artist and creator from Buenos Aires. Mirta, welcome.
Thank you.
I am going to do a minute of housekeeping, and then we will get into our conversation proper. So what we are going to do is, if people can have their sound off, to be muted for the first part of our conversation, which will be about 30 minutes or so. We're going to talk, and Mirta will show some slides, some of her work. Chat is open and will be open, and I'll be looking to see kind of what people are thinking about. Around 40 minutes in, we'll begin a larger conversation, and I think that we'll just have people pop off. Not pop off, that's not the right word, to get off their mute and ask questions, and we'll have a little more of an open conversation. So that is our plan. Also want to thank jewishLIVE, who is our platform for today. And this is also streaming to their Facebook and YouTube and their regular website. And I think we are good. Okay. Mirta, the formal introduction for you is the following. Mirta is a protein creator whose textual, graphic, and sculptural work has been honored with more than 100 international solo shows. She explores the connections, among other things, between text and image, form and chaos, and history and memory. She is the director of the Buenos Aires arts organization Gráfica Insurgente and founder of La Baba, which is a fellowship of Argentinian Jewish artists, which is one of three sibling organizations. One's in New York, and you were a fellow of that first. One is here in Berkeley, in Northern California, where I am a fellow for the first year. And the third one is in Argentina. So I'm very much enjoying that overlap of conversation as well. So I want to say that there were two larger questions I thought about putting on the table for a framing for our conversation. I'm going to put them in chat in a minute also. The first is, how much of creativity is structure and how much is freedom or chaos? I've been very curious to hear Mirta's thoughts on this and for that to be part of our larger conversation. That's the more universal artistic question. Second question is, what does it mean for a Jewish Argentinian artist to explore the mystical imagination? What is the overlap of Jewish and Rio Plateño? Is that the right way of talking about the larger Buenos Aires?
Buenos Aires, yes.
Yes, okay. So those are the two things that will help guide our conversation. But mostly, we'll be talking about your work and seeing what folks' responses are to it. Okay. So, all right, I'm just going to start this chat up here and asking people as we start, where are you calling from? And also, what drew you to this conversation today? Those are things I'd be curious to know. All right. Okay. Primero, first question.
First question. Okay, again, about how much is structure and how much is?
Is form and chaos.
Oh, form and chaos.
So that's the larger question. But I have a more specific question to start with.
Okay.
The specific question is, Gráfica Insurgente sounds very radical, very kind of punk rock, like you're an insurgent. Can you say, how would you translate that into English, and what does your institute do?
Okay. Basically, I don't like limits. Although I have an ordered life. I have a structure in my life. I do not have a crazy life. I like freedom. So I don't like artificial limits. And I think that basically about Gráfica Insurgente, I have a very strong base in graphics, in graphic arts, in printmaking. And you know, technique, it's very important in graphic arts. But I like to explore and to invent and to go out of the technique all the time. That's why I decided to to launch this group of artists, to invite them. And there are artists from all disciplines, all medias, because I think, I am convinced, I'm not only thinking, I'm convinced that what you are doing in one discipline completely can affect and enrich the other. So I don't like when people are speaking about sculptors, drawers, painters. I think this is a very obsolete way of talking with contemporary artists. I think that we should dare to enrich our work with all disciplines. That's why Gráfica Insurgente was born, because it's a conjunction of artists from many different disciplines: photographers, sculptors, textiles, graphics, and many, and to work and think radically in art, and without not so much departing from the technique.
Interesting. I have a friend, Sophie Herxheimer, a British artist whose work is similar to yours in that it connects text and image and doesn't like artificial limits. And she said to me not long ago that on this question of like genre, that the most important thing in art is making something that's alive, and that the specifics of it, whether you choose to do more text or more graphic or something else, is just the manifestation of that, and you follow the life force in some way. Does that make sense?
I agree. Absolutely, I agree. I know you like Borges, so I will use something that Borges said, because I totally agree with his words. He said, I'm a cosmopolitan because I don't like limits, I don't like frontiers, I like people. And you know, I think that I am affected in everything being a daughter of immigrants in Argentina, because I really do not like frontiers and geography. So I feel that I can feel comfortable any place in the world, and also any place in art. I don't like when to feel a limit with techniques or technology. So when I don't know how to do something, because of course this happens a lot, that I'm not prepared technically to do everything I think or I want to do, I like to make collaborations. But I, as your friend, I am following the alive work and not the limit. I don't follow the limits.
I like that. My next question is connected to what you're saying, which is, will you just tell us a little more about where your family came from, how you got to Argentina from Europe, your family, and connected to that, some of these ideas perhaps about memory and how memory and creativity may connect for you?
It's a very good question, because, you know, when I introduce myself, I cannot introduce departing from my own when I was born, but I must talk about my parents, because I am daughter of immigrants, my mother from Hungary, my father from Poland, and they both are Auschwitz survivors. They lived in clandestinity as refugees in Italy during 4 years. And as they were in clandestinity, they had to go away. They cannot stay for longer in Italy. So they went on a ship. And I arrived in Argentina. Actually, they wanted to go to Israel, but it was the time that all Jews were taken to Cyprus. So they couldn't go. So I arrived in Argentina. No, I didn't arrive. I was born here. They arrived in 1948, and I was born in 1955.
And can you say that kind of the third kind of biographical and introductory question I wanted to ask you has to do with what Buenos Aires artistic and creative life is like? What is a community of creators in Argentina? I think a lot of us here in the States don't know that much about what the texture of that community is. And I'm also curious about the texture of the Jewish community, and perhaps ways in which the artistic and the Jewish communities overlap. Where do they overlap in interesting ways, and where are they distinct and not connected?
Okay. First, Argentinian artistic life. All Argentina, but specifically in Buenos Aires and the big cities, Córdoba, Santa Fe, the big provinces, they have a very, very intense and rich and cultural life. A lot of offer, a lot of demand. Good and bad, of course, but very, very, very rich. You would never imagine, if you don't know so much about culture in Buenos Aires, how rich culture is. We have wonderful theater, wonderful cinema, films, well, literature and art. Argentinian artists, printmakers have a very, very high level and a very high performance in the world. Very high quality and a lot. But the market is very small. So it's not as in US that every kind of art finds easily a place. It's not so easy to get a name in Argentina because it's very, very avant-garde, very high level, the very small market. Mm-hmm. So it's very hard to be an artist in Argentina. It's really harder than in US because in US you have a wider range, although in every place it's very hard, but it's smaller. The market is very small. About Jewish art and the art in general, the landscape. To be a Jew in Argentina is completely different as to be a Jew in the places we are talking about. Let's say very different of to be a Jew in New York. Of course, to be a Jew in Nebraska or it's not the same as New York or LA. Okay, but talking about the big cities is completely different because Jewish community, although Argentinian Jewish community was the larger, it was first Israel, afterwards the United States, the third was Argentina, very cultivated Jewish community and very wide. After we had a bomb attack and very big issues, many Jews went abroad. And also culturally, it was a bomb. It was not only a real bomb, but also culturally. But we used to have the second country, a Hebrew-speaking, a very big, lots of schools, and all the rabbis you have in Latin America, all the rabbis went out from Argentina. So it's a very big and huge Jewish community, but artistically, to be a Jew, it's very different. In the United States, Jewish culture is completely inside. I know a lot about New York, about inside the regular culture in New York. Some words, some foods, some it's completely different. Argentina, although I would never say you will find open anti-Semitism, no, it's not the same. So many artists that are Jewish, they don't want to be identified as Jewish. So many very good artists want to be universal, thinking, I don't agree with that idea. Afterwards, perhaps I can explain why. But they think they are more universal, being as everyone else. So I will explain now, following why I don't agree. I think that I turn to be universal when I share with a loving share of what I very genuinamente, I don't know how to say in English, genuinamente, very pure I am. So I think that this is the way I got and I get a place in the total community. I don't like everyone to be the same. I like many different being together. So, well, I don't know if I answered.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, a couple things. Some people say that there's no such thing as universal art or art. There's only specific art. And moreover, the more specifically you go into your particular artistic vision, which may draw from very particular communities that you are connected with, the more universal the message actually could be. It's an interesting irony that goes against some of our silos of you can be an artist or you can be very specifically connected to a community, but you can't be both. So I agree with your idea, but I'm wondering whether you feel lonely or whether, you know, your chevra, your group of fellow Jewish artists with La Baba, whether you have a not a life raft, but you have a group of people where you are together sailing on a similar sea.
I don't feel lonely at all, but not because of La Baba. I belong very strongly to the Argentinian Jewish cultural landscape. I'm not. I do not want also to be only among Jewish artists. That's also a difference, you know, with US. And another difference is that for La Baba, it's very, very hard because we don't have La Baba is very demanding in quality, and not many artists that are committed with Jewish knowledge. They in very good artistic quality. So for me, it's very hard to direct this group because I am very demanding also with quality. So this is another very big difference with US. Completely different.
Right, great. Mirta, I want to look at some of your work, some of your images, and we'll continue our conversation with folks being able to see them. You have a PowerPoint, I'm going to share it, and you will talk and you'll tell me when to move, and we will do this little pas de deux for a few minutes, and we'll see what happens. How does that sound?
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
All right. One moment, please, and then we'll see how this goes. No. Okay. How does this look to everybody? Sometimes it shows up, sometimes it doesn't.
Perfect, perfect.
Fantastic. Okay. This slide is interesting, but I bet there's more interesting work after this. What do you think?
We'll see, we'll see.
Let's see. Okay.
Okay, I will describe a little bit, but I want to say something. I am not, although my art is completely deep inside Jewish knowledge and memory, I am not making an art for a Jewish audience and another art for Argentinian or other international audience. This is what I do for everyone. So everyone can approach or not, but this is who I am. Okay, this is part of it was an intervention of a building. Saul Sosnowski is a man, his field is literature, and he lives in Washington, in Maryland, actually. And during many years together, we worked on Borges and Kabbalah. And we did together many works and many exhibitions around the world. This was part, we were invited to make an exhibition at the library of the Instituto da Cultura Judaica in São Paulo, Brazil. And this was part of the intervention of the building. So we established, he, again, from literature, AI with the images, that the Aleph, the place where to reach, was the library, where all the books were, and we chose special books, and there it was exhibited, the book that we made on Borges and Kabbalah. But all the way in the building, you found clues, and this is something that I make all the time in my works. You found clues about what was happening or what way to road to follow. So at the entrance of the building, there was some water in a space with some stones, and floating on the water, there were some letters, Hebrew and Latin letters floating.
These letters, I wasn't sure initially whether this was actually what a museum visitor would see, or whether this was a kind of a created tableau. And so a visitor would see, there would be actual physical letters in the water, or is this a projection?
Yes. No. Afterwards, perhaps you can see in YouTube or in Vimeo or in any platform, because it is uploaded. Mm-hmm. It's called Cartografía del Deseo. Mm-hmm. It is that exhibition, Borges and Kabbalah, Cartografía del Deseo. It's a film where you can see how all the building was intervened, and you are following this, and these were actual letters floating in the building.
You know, this it's images like this that I think got me thinking about the first of my questions about creativity and structure versus freedom or chaos, right? Because here we have a body of water and letters which are very specific. They must be created exactly correct to understand what they mean, but then they go in a moving body of water, and the flow, the universe takes them whichever way they go. And I love this image for the combination of the two things, something very rigorous and rigid, something very fluid and open, and together you have possibility.
Yes, and the water was moving, so also the letters and some words were shaped by themselves.
Yeah.
So the words were shaped, but it depended who saw them, who could read them, because who did not read Hebrew would not realize what it may say in Hebrew. Who did not read Spanish would not understand. So as everything, this is also a way that I think that everything, nothing is hidden, but nothing is so evident. Everything depends on your background, who you are, what you want, how much you put of yourself to understand, to approach, to reach any knowledge.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I could stay here for the next hour, but let's look at a few more images. How does that sound?
Very well.
Very well. Okay. Let's see. Now I just want to move. Oops. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, these are some images that will work as a journey. And through this journey, perhaps I feel honored, but I can share a little bit more my way of thinking in everything. This image belongs to one of the book that I made. It's an etching, it's a print that I make also joining Borges and Kabbalah. There is a story that Borges wrote that is called The God's Creed. The story talks, first this book was made joining some similitudes between Jewish concepts and some stories that Borges wrote, where you can discover that he was aware of of many Jewish and deep concepts. So in the God script, Borges speaks about a secret formula that the god, he says, the god wrote in the stripes of the tiger to be sure that this formula will pass from generation to generation until the chosen one, says the story, will discover and he would redeem humanity by pronouncing this secret. So, in the contour of this tiger, you can see many characters that belong to nowadays culture or the biblical heroes or the story that Borges writes that takes place in pre-Columbine America. Also, you can see, I will not speak about politics, but there you can see a reference to the Twin Towers, a reference to a blind king, and many other characters that are walking in the contour of the tiger. And inside the tiger, let's see if one of the audience is the chosen one. In the tiger, it says in Spanish, el secreto, the secret. Let's see then if you find the words. I cannot point them out. El secreto, it is, let's see, did you find something?
I'm not entirely sure. In the tiger itself?
Okay, one help more. In the head of the tiger.
Okay.
El secreto. I will help you.
Okay.
Okay, in the beginning on your left, a very long E, the black, look the dark stripes. L, that is the L. I'm going to the right.
Yeah.
S, a smaller E,
yeah.
a C, an R,
okay.
Another E, okay,
Yeah,
all the letters, El Secreto. This, I make this to show that we have many things, but this is in all levels in life. We have many things in front of our eyes and we do not see them unless we are aware or prepared to see them.
So two quick thoughts are, one, this Jewish mystical idea of Pardes, right? This hidden garden where one goes to try to find the truth. And Pardes also is an acronym for Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. Different levels of interpretation. Pshat is what's on the very surface, and that's only your first clue to get to the deeper and deeper and deeper levels. So you look and you see only the surface, and then you go to the next level, you find a portal to go further in. Sometimes it's explicit, like El Secreto, and sometimes it's another level. It's another clue that one finds. So I'm struck by that comparison. And then also, something that I'm always struck by is how when we first started to understand the genetic code, right, that we have these 4 base pairs and each one is assigned a letter. And there's something about the zipping and unzipping of these DNA strands that have these 4 letters together. There is some deep primal alphabet of creation that goes from generation to generation to generation, and the way that this tiger and the language is connected. So everywhere you look, right?
Exactly. You see, you are adding all your background and your own thoughts with, in this case, with this image. This is what Umberto Eco said. The difference between an artwork and a publicity image is that a publicity image, you should see what the one that is selling that product wants you to see. An art image, An art word should open your own thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. Should we move to number 3? Image number 3? Let's see.
I want to share with everyone these concepts. When I am working, for instance, Borges and Kabbalah, or the Pardes, or Jewish concept, it's not that I'm working focused only in that theme, but that knowledge goes inside me for everything. Everything I will work from then on. So the definition of the letter Aleph in maths is one point in space where all points in space converge. This is letter Aleph. So I built a big installation that was called, I titled Aleph.com. Making an allusion to what internet is, because the internet is one point in space where all points in space converge. It's like an Aleph internet. So this was a big wall in a museum, a big wall. When you looked inside a very small hole, you saw what comes now.
Shall we?
Yes, Aleph.com. So this is a game of mirrors, many mirrors, but if you looked inside, you felt as if you could fall inside these structures. It is all made with little pieces of computers. So you felt like you are in an endless space. Of course, it was with mirrors, but the metaphor was the endless, the infinite space.
And Borges loved the infinite also.
Yes, that's why. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
That I didn't finish working with Borges when I finished my work on Borges. Right. Borges is living with me all the time.
Right. Fantastic.
Borges and Kabbalah and everything what I am doing is living with me. My ancestors, my Argentinian roots, everything is walking with me in the street every day.
There's one more image, I think, of this installation. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And this is just a different view or different lighting?
A different view, yes.
Okay. Okay.
But you cannot see them, but perhaps now when I say, I included in these images, in this installation, real pencils, many pencils all the time, because I work also a lot. I love pencils because I think that the pencil is the first tool of creation. Every creator begins with a pencil. Writers, drawers, children. I think that the pencil is a very basic and important tool. So usually a pencil is included in my works.
Right, fantastic. It's like a hidden leitmotif that goes from work to work. Okay.
Exactly.
I was also, this is not really important, but I was thinking about when you say Aleph.com, in Spanish, the dot is punto. Is that right?
Punto.
Like a point. It's like the point where all converges. So it's
exactly.
Also
exactly.
Un chiste. Okay. Bueno. Okay. ¿Qué más?
We'll see. So in this wall, when you saw this wall, it had two holes. Let's say one little square when you could put your head, and you saw this infinite space, and another little hole. You named Dan. You named the Pardes. If you remember the Pardes, the text in the Talmud says, he, I don't know how to say in English, él espió in Spanish, he put his eye in the Pardes. Mm-hmm. It says he's, not that he entered like this and died, the first one. Mm-hmm. He looked a little bit and he could not resist what he saw. Mm-hmm. So in this wall, you have a very little hole as in the doors. It's done with this in the doors. And when you look like this, you put your eye and you look, you see inside this. So this is a projected light of an aleph. A projected is made of light. And sitting in there in the back, you can discover a figure that I named the poet. It's a figure that is also in many, many, many works of mine, also repeated as the pencil, and many flying letters in this case. But this poet, I put this poet, it is the same as the pencil, as a symbol of human creation, making a contrapunto, a counterpoint between God's creation and human creation. God's creation with the Hebrew letters and human creation, the poet, with poetry and words and writing. When we talked, that you wrote me some lines, Dan, you told me that you asked me a little bit about this Argentinian and Jewish feeling, and with my art making like a relationship. I think that this work that I will share is explains very well this, let's say, dichotomy, because this is a big installation that is called To Be a Witness, Ser Testigo. I made this also as part of one of these big presentations on Borges and Kabbalah. And in this exhibition, you see all these squares, blind crystals in the lowest part, blind crystals, and you will see afterwards in another photo, it has only two crystals are carved with 2 letters. All the images that go up are like a prayer, showing a man covering his eyes in an attitude of inside, of praying or thinking. This is an allusion to the Shema Israel, the most important prayer in Jewish liturgy. So it is, these crystals are separated. Perhaps we can see the next one. Perhaps people will see better. No, it's not better. Well, it doesn't matter. This is the same image repeated many, many times, always different, but the same position. The young man covering his eyes in attitude of praying the Shema Israel. But in the crystals, I said there are only 2 letters, characters carved. The last letter of the first word, that is the Ain, and the last letter of the last word, that is letter Dalet. If you join those 2 letters, Hebrew letters, it makes Ev. That means witness or testimony. Mm-hmm. This installation comes together with a poem by Saul Sosnowski that I will not say the poem, but the meaning. It says to pray to God to make a trial to God in Auschwitz to declare him is guilty and to continue praying to him there in Auschwitz. You know, there was a film that was made, it was real, it was made a trial to him in Auschwitz, and he was declared guilty. And it is there is a film that I think it's titled, yes, Trial to God, Juicio a Dios. It's a film. So I made this thinking on the Shema Israel. I thought only in that, but this is the Argentinian heritage. When I travel, when I showed this in New York, and I showed also this in Scotland, and well, somewhere else, when people learn that I am Argentinian, immediately, when they know that this is titled Ser Testigo, to be a witness, and someone covering his eyes, they make a relationship with the dirty war in Argentina. So what I mean is that it's very interesting for me that we are who we are, and we show what we are, although we want or we were not thinking about that. People will understand what people think or know about ourselves. This is what I wanted to share.
Right. This is an example of you make a work that is so specific to your community or vision, and other people will find a point of entry to it if the work is done with enough skill and intention. Yeah.
Yes, this is what I mean.
Let's see. Oh, is this no, am I going the right direction?
Exactly. Here you can see the two characters.
On the bottom.
You
Okay.
see the letter Ein, the
Okay.
first word, the end of the first word, and the Dalet, the end of the last word. So these little holes are separating the words, Shema Israel, of all the prayer.
Okay.
Okay, you want me to speak about this, or you want to? Okay.
Well, let's see. What time is it? Plenty of time. We have hundreds of seconds left based on our previous estimate. Let's maybe talk about this project with the palm, and then maybe we'll open it up to more conversation, and we may still be able to see some more images.
Okay. So I like pencils, I like poets, I like handwriting, and I like hands, because I think that I take the palm of the hand as a territory, and one of my projects are always open. I don't finish and begin another one. I mix one with the other. So I decided that I wanted to intersect, to work with palms of hands of Jewish writers intervened with their own text. So I am here with Amos Oz in Israel in the desert. So I went to, it was very hard to get him, and this is another story for another encounter. So here, I was taking the photo of his palm of hand, and we can continue, and I will tell you how I worked with him. So when this is the big painting almost finished in my studio. So I asked him, with what work of yours do you want me to work for what I make for you? And he said he came with his book, Una historia de amor y oscuridad, a story of love and darkness.
Yeah, his memoir.
Yes. So I came, and he came and he said in Hebrew, the book in Hebrew, he said, work only with the first page of this book. Nobody believes me, but I don't speak Hebrew. So I took a photo. I read the book in English. So I took a photo of that first page, and I respected exactly what he told me. I would work only with the first page of that book. So this is the finished. Wait, I will speak first of this one. So I don't know if you read the book, that is fabulous, but this red line speaks about when he was 12, he says that his mother committed suicide. So this red line alludes to that. And you see Jerusalem upside down in all the lowest part of the painting. Mm. And everything, all his world is in the palm of his hand. Let's go to the next one. I will explain how I worked. Mm. So this is inside the house that you saw, because it's a big painting. So the first page of that book, I made all he describes his room, his house in the book. So I made all the little furniture. I covered everything in three dimension. I built that. I covered everything with that first page of the book. I photographed like this with a lantern and with a photo machine, trying to reproduce as if I were little inside his house. And this is inside that house in the palm of his hand. And everything is done only with the first page of his book.
Amazing. I'm reminded in this moment, a thread I've been following in my mind about the idea of creation from language, right? Because of course, God in the beginning, God spoke and the world was created. And here you have a literal embodiment of it in a way. He almost spoke or wrote, and the world, the furniture, the room came into being, and you're representing that process literally in a way by showing how the object and the letter are kind of one.
Exactly.
I think. I mean, that's my interpretation.
Thank you. Nice. Thank you.
Let's do this. I'm going to stop sharing for now. I think we got through almost everything that we thought we might look at. I would love, we have on our Zoom call, we have a small enough group. I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of people are watching on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. Who knows where this goes? But let's have a conversation for a while with real people with real voices. Anyone who wants to add or comment or suggest or bring in another work of art that might be in conversation with Mirta's, please do so. I mean, I have plenty of questions. Let's see, there has to be a brave soul somewhere. Peter.
Mirta, I really enjoyed listening to you talk about and show the works that you showed. And one of the things that I enjoy so much is the variety of approaches you're taking in each different work. It sounds like you started out as a printmaker, and of course, as you said, there's all this technique to learn in etching or lithography or intaglio, whatever aquatint, everything, and one can get lost in the technique, but you've very successfully transcended the limitations of just the copper plate, and you're doing these environmental pieces and these paintings and these mixed media pieces with photographs, and the photograph that includes the sculpture, and the sculpture that includes the book. Is like a Russian doll. You know, everything has another microcosm inside of it in the palm of the hand. It's fascinating just to see the variety of approaches you've been taking. And similar, one quick question. It was a little unclear. The the installation based on the concept of the Aleph and the where there was the creator and then there was the microcosm of the poet. And I was wondering, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was looking at. It felt like a luminous source, a light source, or a bulb with an aleph and some other letters on it. What exactly? How is that part of the larger installation?
You know, when you read Borges, this is another one with letters. When you read Borges, he's exactly like that. It's one thing is inside the other. He has a text, a tale, where he speaks that a writer goes inside a basement, and there he found everything, and he describes. He begins to describe everything, and everything is everything: the lamp, the box, the computer, everything. So the endless, because he's always speaking about the infinite, the endless. So the installation, the description of the installation, it is exactly like a wall. So, but I left a hole between the real wall and the wall that I built.
Yeah.
But it looks like a wall with two holes. One hole you saw inside, it had like an elevator, let's say, a space with mirrors. And another hole, it's a very primitive building inside with a lamp, but a lamp like this one, a very primitive lamp with a gobo. It makes the letter with the light. It's very primitive. It's the illusion,
right?
What you see. It's the illusion.
Right. So one of them alludes to the entire interconnected world of the internet, in which
exactly.
every place on the planet is united through this pipes and technology and circuitry and energy server farms and everything else that requires the power of dams and generators and electricity. And the other is the microcosm that also has access to all of that in the poet's moment.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Afterwards, if you write to me separately, I will send you more images.
Okay, great.
I'm actually going to, Mirta, I'm going to put your website in the chat. Is that okay?
Wow. Of course, and my email, because I can send more information or photos if anyone wants.
At it's mirtakupfermink.net. Is that right?
Yes.
.net. Okay. There's so I think that your friend or colleague Elisa Abrams from Washington, her mic is not working. So she sent a note in chat. Come back to Maryland soon. She says, I have a postcard of Ayin for Borges Kabbalah show watching over me safely in my office against the evil eye. Can you discuss your concept behind the painting? Also what Torah selection you chose, and also about purchasing a smaller size book from that exhibit. So anything about what is that painting, and how do you connect, let's say, a particular passage from the Torah with the work? How might those two things come together?
I am afraid I didn't understand very well. What works?
She's talking about a specific work and a Torah selection that you chose connected with the painting. But I might not fully understand all the pieces either.
I don't know if I understand very well.
Okay. Elisa, you should email Mirta, and the two of you will have a wonderful conversation, and all will be explained.
The Ayin.
The Ayin, yeah.
The Ayin. I don't know. There was another work about with an Ayin, but I think I will make a big confusion to everyone.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, Elisa. Write to me, and I will answer directly.
That's all right. I want to say we're going to start to begin our conclusion. We're not ending, but we're going to begin the process of starting to end. And as part of that, I just wanted to say that my friend Peter recently retired from SF MoMA as a curator, and who's done really important work looking at what it means to be a visitor and the visitor experience. And Peter will be on my show July 5th. I think we decided July 5th. And we're going to talk about Peter's recent book, Creating the Visitor-Centered Museum.
Oh my God, he even has it on hand.
I have it right here. And
I will be there. I will be there.
Oh,
and
great.
that'll be a very interesting conversation. I mentioned this both to give a shout out to Peter, and also because as we think about this moment in time when nobody can go to museums, art in museums is very lonely right now. I don't know, that it's just like they're all, the art is all asleep, but also
Well, they're talking to each other.
They are talking to each other. There are strange conversations happening. But Mirta, there was something that you had done or said recently, and I can't quite pull out of my brain at this moment, but that connects to this idea of quarantine and being exiled at home and what it means for us to be inside a space and to be stuck in that space. And I wonder whether there's something in there for you right now in this moment of space and art. How do you expand when we're all contracted?
Yes, of course. I thought a lot about this being, in Argentina, we have a very, very strong quarantine because, every government took a very different attitude. In Argentina, it's very, very strong and the control is very strong. And we have already a very long quarantine. I am one of the privileged, I must say, because I have a big house. I am comfortable. My studio is out of my house, but I could bring some things to work inside my home. So I improvised a kind of workshop in my home, and I am working. But I think a lot about this feeling of not being allowed to move freely. And I don't want to be irreverent, but as I am working so much, my actual work is based on the ghetto of Lodz, where my father was a prisoner. And I cannot avoid making a relationship of being inside a space, creating a life inside a space. And again, I apologize for this relationship, but I am thinking about this different feeling and how to create a life, a real life. We are already near 90 days inside our homes here in Argentina. And this is, if we will finish still alive and healthy, it is an interesting situation. It is a saying, a Chinese saying that says, the worst thing that can happen to you is to live in an interesting time.
Right.
So if we, and again, I am one of the privileged. People are having terrible times here, of course. It depends who. But I think it is also, and we artists, I think that we can contribute, as always, with creating, with thinking, with giving cultural support to all this situation. But yes, I am producing some work. And it's interesting because I began working with things, with materials I was not working at all. I usually not painting now directly. And now at home, I can paint. I do not have my press here. I do not have all my big computer. I think so. It's also for creativity. It's also good.
Back to basics.
Yes. Why not?
I wonder, as our conversation here is multidimensional as we talk about art and we talk about the pandemic, which is behind a lot of the things that we're feeling, even though this conversation is not explicitly about that, since not every conversation can be only about that. But there is something interesting when I think about what is the value of art and artists, and I just was making a connection in my mind now that, right, that when artists have a constraint, constraints can be very productive, right, in terms of what you can, what you can create when certain choices are made or you make them for yourselves, and that oftentimes too much freedom means nothing can happen. There's no pressure, there's no focus, there's no velocity. And just thinking about possibly what artists can offer the world now is, I don't know, a model of what it means to have constraints, but to still find a way to be alive and to make something that's alive.
Yes, I agree with you. I think that limits and constraints, as you say, also are a kind of stimulation to creativity, because there you see who will have more personal resources in all kinds, in all stages of life or all situations. When you have a problem, creativity may help you to solve or to go. If you cannot go over, you can go back, but creativity can help, yes, of course, to solve any problem, of course.
Maybe that's a good place to end our conversation, with a note of possibility, of optimism, maybe what art can offer a difficult and sometimes broken world. So thank you, Mirta. We'll be talking more offline, I hope, about many exciting things.
Thank you. Thank you for your invitation. It was really a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. I've been wanting to talk to you since I first saw your work at Hebrew Union College in New York in 1998, I think. So here we are.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
All right.
And I will see you, Peter.
Okay, great, Mirta. Thank you so much.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.